swelling, headache or a rash, asthma, colitis, fatigue, or gas. What will today's symptom be? My loopy life with lupus. Hi everyone, welcome to day 5 of Lupus Awareness Month, and I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible because my voice, as you can hear, is a little raspy. I've been dealing with a cold the last few days. I caught Jeremy's cold, so I just finished having like this huge coughing fit, and so now my throat is all anyways, so today's video is going to be on how lupus affects me, and I'm going to put it into categories, I guess, because really lupus affects everything. It affects every part of my life. So I'm going to start off with just talking about the symptoms that I get from my lupus. And so you saw yesterday, I hope yesterday you guys watched the links to my story, because that will kind of show you how lupus affected me prior to being diagnosed and shortly after being diagnosed. But I will just kind of list the symptoms that I experience, and I don't always experience these symptoms at the same time, and I don't necessarily experience them every day. Lupus is very unpredictable. I can wake up in the morning feeling terrible, and an hour or two later, or maybe even into the afternoon, I will start to feel better, and then I can feel like crap again in the evening. Or I can wake up feeling great, and an hour later I feel really sick, or vice versa. In the afternoon I feel sick. I can have days where I feel almost 100% healthy. I never do feel 100% healthy. And so I've kind of tried to gauge it that, okay, if I feel at about maybe 80%, that's like 100% for me. So it's just very unpredictable, and it can even actually be like minute to minute, literally. Like I can be feeling fine, and then 5 minutes later I feel sick. So it's just very unpredictable and very sporadic. I have good days and I have bad days, so that's basically how it works. And so the rundown of symptoms that I can experience at any given day or time, sometimes together, sometimes on their own, are the main one for me is joint pain and swelling in my joints. The main joints that are affected for me are my fingers, wrists, my knees, especially my right one. My right one is the worst knee. And my elbows at times. And then on the rare occasion, sometimes my toes and my ankles, and sometimes my shoulders, but not too often does that happen. So that's the main thing. Sorry, guys. I also sometimes get headaches, although at this point the headaches seem to be more connected to my jaw pain or side effects from the methotrexate, but I don't get them too frequently anymore. I did go through a period of time when I worked in daycare where I had headaches literally every single day for a good 3 to 4 months, and I went for MRIs and everything, and they couldn't find anything that was causing the headaches. So it was just a thing, and then just one day it went away, and we never knew what was going on with that. Another thing that I was getting at one time was nausea, and we linked that to we ended up linking it to colitis, and I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. And I'm trying to think. I've had rashes, like the hives, but that was way before I was diagnosed. I've had some weird rashes since being diagnosed that we've never really been able to figure out if they were lupus rashes or not. But my I don't really get rashes very often. It's been a few years since I've had one, with the exception of the allergic reaction rash that I got last summer, which isn't from lupus. It was just an allergic reaction. It also has in the past, at the very beginning of my diagnosis, it was attacking my kidneys. Lupus was attacking my kidneys. Thankfully, it was a very minor case, and we were able to get it under control quickly with medication, and I haven't had any issues with my kidneys since then, thankfully. Also, at the beginning, lupus was causing me to be a bit anemic. It was affecting my blood a bit, but that was that's been under control since they started me on my treatments. Another physical way lupus affects me is fatigue. Fatigue is something that I deal with constantly, and some days it's worse than other days, but I never ever feel fully refreshed. I have issues sleeping, which doesn't help. I'm not allowed to take my sleeping pill every night, so I only get 3 nights a week where I take a sleeping pill and get good sleep in, with the exception of, like, if I am in like extremely bad pain, or if I have a cold that's keeping me up at night, I am allowed to take it. Like if it's just for like a week where I'm taking it every night, then they're okay with that. So like this past week with this cold, I've been taking sleeping pill every night just so that I can hopefully get rid of this cold a lot faster by getting good sleep in. But usually I only get 3 good nights a week of sleep, and the rest of the time I'm constantly waking up throughout the night. And my doctor has pretty much figured out, because I did sleep studies and all this stuff, and we never found any reason for it. And so we think that it has to do with before I was diagnosed, because I went for such a long stretch of time of being in excruciating pain with no treatment and no answer as to what was causing the pain at that point. And so I couldn't sleep because I kept waking up in pain. And so my doctor thinks that what happened is that my body got used to waking up constantly throughout the night, and so it just continues to do it whether I'm in pain or not. So yeah, so that sucks. I do sleep on the bus to work and on my way home from work. Yeah, and some days I have more energy than others. Like some days I'm pretty good. My fatigue has improved since I left working in daycare. But yeah, the fatigue, it comes and goes, but it's something that I struggle with a lot, and it's just like, it's exhaustion. It's so hard to push through it sometimes, but I don't know how, I just do it. But some days I literally feel like a walking zombie. Also, symptom-wise, I also developed pericarditis last summer, just shortly after coming back from the Down East Doll Show. And what that is, pericarditis is inflammation around the heart. And I was leaving work and I started to have like really bad chest pains every time I would breathe in. And at first I didn't think anything of it, because I occasionally get chest pains that last for a few seconds to a few minutes and then they're gone. But as I was, making my way home, they slowly got worse. And so we ended up going to the ER and they found out that it was pericarditis. And so I had to be on a short round of prednisone to get it down. And I've been fine since then. But so that's another way that lupus attacked me, is it went after my heart, I guess you can say, caused inflammation and a little bit of fluid as well around my heart. So that was another symptom that I had. At one point I did have shortness of breath, but that seems to have gotten a lot better. They attributed it to a combination of the steroid medication and the lupus weakening my breathing muscles and causing a mild case of asthma. And I had a puffer for a while. I still have it that I can use as needed, but I literally haven't used it in months. So that's pretty much under control now. In terms of other medical conditions, they haven't fully pinpointed lupus as being the cause of these other medical issues that I have, but I do have these. And so I have hypothyroidism, I have an irregular heartbeat, and I also, like I just said, had a mild case of asthma, and I also was found to have colitis. And the colitis was like an autoimmune thing. So my GI doctor kind of attributed it to lupus, but my lupus clinic was saying they're not so sure that it was lupus related. Yeah, so it's really hard to say in that aspect. Yeah, so I think that's it in terms of the physical ways. In terms of my daily life, it's funny, they say that with the treatments available now for lupus, that most lupus patients can live a normal life. Well, yes, in a way, I guess, but to me, I still don't consider my life normal. Even on the days that I feel good, especially on the days that I feel good, I have the need to do a whole bunch of stuff, because it's like, oh my gosh, here's like a day where I feel fantastic, I feel good, I want to do all this stuff that I haven't been able to do when I wasn't feeling well. But really, I can't do that. Sometimes I still do it and then I end up paying for it, and so I have to keep reminding myself that no, even when I feel good, I have to actually pace myself. And to me, that's not part of a normal life. I mean, most people can just get up and go and do what they want when they want, and they can have a full day of doing whatever they want without any repercussions. Whereas me, I have to really think about each thing that I do throughout the day and what effect it might have on me tomorrow. Is it going to have me in bed tomorrow? Is it going to have me in pain tomorrow or more fatigued? And so, I often, I used to love sometimes just after work, just deciding on a whim, to go to the mall or to go do this or that. But I can't do that anymore. I have to really think about it. Do I really have, enough energy left to do this today, or am I going to end up paying for it? And sometimes I choose to do it, and if I do pay for it, I say it was worth it because I enjoyed what I did. But other times it's you really, it's hard to explain, but you just have to pace yourself when you have lupus. Otherwise, you can end up in a flare. You can end up really sick. Also, you have to keep your stress down. And so, like, these are just, you know, ways that your life has to be modified. And so to me, even if your symptoms are under control, you're still really not having a normal life, because you're constantly thinking about what may or may not, you know, make your disease flare. And you just have to, like, strategically plan out your day and your tasks and things like that. So in that aspect, that's how it affects me. Also, I guess what else is not normal is the fact that you're taking a whole bunch of medications every day, and the average normal healthy person doesn't have to do that. And it's like you have to try to remember to take all these pills and the different times that you have to take them. And so I have a pill sorter, and I will show you guys that in another video. But yeah, it's a lot to remember. It's a lot to think about and plan, and I don't know, it's just, it's a lot. So, and then also, you know, lupus affects your relationships. It affects your social life, your friendships. I've had to turn down family gatherings because I don't feel well, or I'm really fatigued. I've had to turn down going out with friends because I'm just too exhausted, or I'm in too much pain. And sometimes it's really hard for them to understand why I can't come, because they're not experiencing what I'm experiencing. They're not in my shoes. And so in a way, like, lupus can be very isolating sometimes, because, you know, you have friends who are healthy and active, and they want to go out dancing, or they want to go out bowling, or, you know, do these like activities that require energy and, you know, being active. And sometimes I can't take part in those, and so sometimes it's hard for them to understand that. And so then I have to just stay home by myself. So things like that are ways that it affects your social life. It's hard for family members who love you to watch you suffering, and they can't do anything about it. And sometimes they'll try to offer advice, and I realize that it's in their best and they'll sometimes try to offer advice that I know they mean well. They're trying to help in whatever way they can, but sometimes they just don't understand, and the advice that they give sometimes can be taken the wrong way by someone with a chronic illness. And I'm going to get into that in another video, specifically about reactions to lupus from family members and friends. But yeah, and you know, I got sick right when we came back from our honeymoon, so in that aspect it affected our marriage, because, you know, we're supposed to be enjoying our first year of marriage, you know, being newlyweds and this and that. And I got sick, and I could barely move, and I was in pain every day. And so Alex had to take over doing a lot of stuff like cooking and cleaning and things like that, and taking care of me. And there was a lot of stuff that we missed out on because I was always sick. Another way lupus affects me is in the aspect of working in the job field. I am an early childhood educator. I graduated from college with an ECE degree, And I used to work full-time in a daycare center. I've worked in several different daycare centers, and when I was diagnosed, I was actually working as a nanny because I had been laid off from a daycare center, and I just couldn't find any job openings in any daycare centers, so I chose to go for a nanny job. And it was about a year, maybe not even a year in to me working there, that I started to first experience my symptoms. And basically like a little over a year after starting the job was when I was finally diagnosed with lupus. But I struggled a lot, even working as a nanny with just one child during the time, because at the beginning of being diagnosed, like, you're just figuring things out and you're just learning how to cope, and you're angry, you're depressed, you're relieved to finally have a diagnosis, but you're angry at all the things that it's taken from you. And on top of that, you're trying to get all your symptoms under control, which takes time for the medications to work. And so I had a very difficult time. And then when that job ended, I was off work, unemployed for a few months, and I started to get better because I was able to get rest that I needed, and it was actually a good thing for me. And then I worked part-time as a nanny, just a few days a week, just to get myself slowly back into working, and that was a really good thing for me. However, then when that job ended, because as we know, not all nanny jobs are forever, because children grow and family situations change, so that job had to end, and I ended up trying to go back to work in daycare. And right after the first week, I knew I couldn't do it, but I was determined to try to do it. And I thought, well, maybe my body just has to readjust, because by the end of the first week I was in really bad pain. And so anyways, I think I stayed at that daycare for 9 months. I don't know how I stayed that long, but I did. I was sick the entire time because I was on immune suppressant drugs, and I'm in a room full of 15 children that all have germs, and I caught every single thing that went around the daycare. And I literally had a cold for 3 to 4 months, just one right after another. And that, on top of my lupus, really wore me down. And I basically wasn't living. I would just go to work, come home, and pass out. And it was just not a life. And it just finally, after, I would say, after about 4 months of it, maybe 5, I started to realize that this was not good for me. It was making my disease worse. I just felt like I was going downhill, and I felt like I had no life, and that I was missing out on a lot. And so I made the decision to look for a part-time nanny job. And when I finally found one, then I left daycare. And so I've been doing that since. And that nanny job didn't last for very long because the family situation changed. But luckily I was able to quickly find another part-time nanny job, which is where I am now with Jeremy. And I worked part-time, so it was like 4 hours a day, which was perfect for me. My health improved a great deal, and this is actually the first cold that I have had in over a year, and I attribute it to the fact that I'm back on immune suppressant drugs, because prior to this I wasn't on immune suppressant drugs, and I was doing great. I wasn't catching colds at all. In fact, Jeremy's mom was getting cold after cold after cold, and she was around me because she was on mat leave, and I was just there to help out in the mornings. and I never once caught any of the colds that went around the household until now. I did catch a flu right around Christmas. There was a bad flu, but I think it was the Norwalk virus, and it was bad. But other than that, I've been doing great. Now, his mom, her mat leave ended in January, and so since January, I've been doing the full days with Jeremy, which is 8:30 till 5, and it was since doing the full-time hours that my joints started to flare up again, because it was just longer hours, you know, a lot more physical stuff, a lot more lifting with Jeremy and things like that. And so that's why I'm at the point now where my joints are being affected, and we had to go with stronger medications and back on the immune suppressant drugs. But basically, as you can see, it's affected my ability to work full time. I know that I really can't do full time, or at the very least, I know I cannot work in daycare ever again. And that's sad, because it's what I went to school for, it's what I trained for, and I like being in daycare in that I have coworkers that I can talk to and socialize with. As a nanny, it's just you and the child, and there's no other adults to talk to, and sometimes it gets kind of lonely. But I do find it really rewarding anyways. I actually find it really nice to have one-on-one time with a child, so I try to look at the positive side of it. And yeah, so I know that probably when this job ends, which it's going to end at the end of June, because he will be going into daycare, I'm going to, well, I have something set up for July and August that's going to be 3.5 hours each morning. So that'll be a nice break from all the long days. And then I'm hoping to find another part-time nanny job for September. Hopefully something similar to what I've just done with Jeremy, because it's been wonderful watching this baby grow up. And 4 hours a day in the morning was just perfect for me. It seemed to be the right balance. And that's really what it's all about, is that you have to have a balance of rest and activity. You don't want to overdo it, and you also don't want to be too inactive either, because exercise does to a certain extent help your joints, but you also don't want to overdo it, because then you get the opposite effect. So yeah, that's how it affects everything. And so it's just unfortunate that I don't know that I will ever be able to work full time. I really don't know. And that also affects our finances. So it just affects everything, and it makes things tricky. Yeah. So yeah, as you can see, lupus affects every aspect of your life. However, I really do try to stay positive, and I really just try to take good care of myself the best that I can, and I just try to do as much as I can and enjoy my life regardless of lupus. So hopefully that gives you a little insight as to what it's like to live with lupus. I am going to be sharing some other lupus patient stories during the month, as well as a very famous article called The Spoon Theory, which is a fantastic way to describe what it's like to live with lupus. So that's it for this video, guys. I just want to remind you to check out yesterday's video if you haven't already. It's where you can hear my story on how I received the diagnosis of lupus, and it was definitely a very long, hard road to getting a diagnosis. And so you can hear all about that, and also you can see the lupus awareness bracelets that I am currently making and selling. Thank you so much to those who have already purchased some. All of the proceeds for the bracelets will be going to Lupus Ontario, and the bracelets are only available for the month of May, so get yours while you can. And also don't forget in the link in the description below to visit our merchandise shop where we have t-shirts. There's Lupus Awareness t-shirts. There's also doll related t-shirts, and there will be more doll related t-shirts to come over the next few months. But right now, everything in our shop for the month of May, everything in our shop, all the proceeds are going to Lupus Ontario. So don't forget to get your Lupus Awareness shirt. And yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave comments if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new. And I will see you guys very soon in a new Lupus Awareness video tomorrow. And also probably there will be a doll video coming up in the next day or two, so stay tuned for that, guys. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you for watching.